She refused to feed a hungry 7-year-old because his mother hadn't built the right kind of life. And what happened next was something nobody at that Druid Hills barbecue saw coming, including the woman who engineered it. Let me tell you about the day a woman's entire family learned that the person they'd been writing off for 5 years was the one actually holding all the cards. I need to tell you this story because it's about something bigger than revenge or getting even. It's about what happens when invisible strength finally becomes visible. It's about a mother protecting her child by letting her family understand that power doesn't announce itself. It whispers, then it acts. The July heat in Atlanta was suffocating that afternoon. The kind of heat that makes everyone sticky and irritable, where even the sound of ice clinking in a glass feels aggressive. Natalia Morrison stood in her brother Kevin's backyard, watching the smoke rise from the grill in thick, deliberate clouds. Her 7-year-old son, Lucas, held her hand. They'd been there for maybe 30 minutes, and she could already feel the familiar tension settling into her shoulders, the weight of being the successful person in a family that didn't believe she was successful. You know that feeling? When you walk into a room and you can already sense that people have already decided who you are, and nothing you do will change that. That was Natalia's entire childhood, and most of her adult life in Kevin's backyard. Kevin was performing, as he always did. He moved around that grill like he was hosting a cooking show, flipping burgers with exaggerated flair, making jokes at volumes specifically designed to carry across the entire yard. His wife, Sophie, was recording everything on her phone, narrating his performance with that high-pitched enthusiasm that only emerged when she was documenting something for social media. Their twin boys, both maybe 10 years old, wore sneakers that cost more than Natalia's monthly rent. She'd Googled the brand. She'd done the math. They cost $280 per shoe. She thought about this fact, the way you think about an insult that keeps playing on repeat in your mind. She couldn't stop thinking about it. And then Lucas tugged her sleeve. His sleeve tug was small, uncertain. He was hungry. He was also learning, at 7 years old, to be careful about asking for things in his aunt and uncle's house. "Mom, can I have a burger? I'm hungry." His voice was so small it almost disappeared into the cicadas screaming in the trees. She looked down at him, this child she'd been protecting for every single moment of his life, and she felt something shift inside her chest. Not anger yet. First came that hollow feeling that precedes anger, that terrible recognition that people you should be able to trust were going to disappoint you in front of someone you were trying to protect. But she took a breath. She smiled because that's what mothers do. She took Lucas's hand and walked toward the grill where her brother stood, still performing, still completely unaware that this moment would reorganize the next 6 months of everyone's life. "I need to be honest with you about something. If I were Natalia in that moment, I think I would have known what was about to happen. Not consciously, not with certainty, but the way your body knows before your mind does. You approach authority figures you don't trust on behalf of a child you love, and there's a temperature drop. There's a change in air. The person holding the power shifts their stance. They're about to remind you where you sit in the hierarchy. That's what I think would have happened to me. That's what happened to her." Kevin looked down at Lucas, then up at Natalia, then back to Lucas. His expression transformed. It was the same expression he'd been wearing for 5 years whenever Natalia mentioned her consulting business or tried to talk about her work. It was pity mixed with contempt, the kind of look that doesn't just dismiss, it crushes. The backyard seemed to tighten. People were watching. That's the part that makes it worse, doesn't it? When humiliation becomes public spectacle. When your family members become an audience to your failure. Kevin opened his mouth. "Some people just don't have the mindset for real success," he said loudly enough for his father to hear, for his cousin Raymond to stop mid-conversation and pay attention. "These burgers? They're for kids who have an actual future ahead of them. Kids whose parents made real choices. Kids like mine." He gestured to his twins with the spatula like they were prizes on a game show. The backyard went quiet. It's one of those silences that feels deliberate, like everyone at once agreed not to defend her. Natalia's father looked uncomfortable and said nothing. Her mother suddenly became very focused on the potato salad, using a wooden spoon like it required intense concentration. Kevin's cousin Raymond, who had always been neutral, shook his head and actually walked away, which was its own kind of statement. The withdrawal of even that small witness felt like abandonment. Natalia's Aunt Patricia, sitting in a lawn chair with a wineglass, nodded in agreement while setting the glass down with this very deliberate click on the metal table, a sound that seemed to say, "See, I was right about you all along." Sophie, Kevin's wife, made that high-pitched giggle she used whenever Kevin said something cruel. It was the giggle that said, "This is funny because it's true." Her Uncle Robert walked over from the beverage table, already launching into his own version of the same message. "My accountant was just telling me about some investment strategies last week," he said. "Real wealth-building approaches. Maybe if you'd made different decisions earlier in your life, you could actually provide for your son the way he deserves. It's not too late, though. It's never too late to start making smarter choices." Natalia could feel Lucas's hand trembling in hers. She could feel him trying not to cry. He was 7. He was learning that his mother's choices meant his food, his worth, his future could be publicly questioned and mocked by people related to him by blood. I want you to sit with this moment for a second because this is the moment that matters. This isn't about food. This isn't about a barbecue. This is about a child internalizing that his mother isn't enough. That her choices have consequences for his safety and belonging. Do you understand why parents struggle with this? Why being dismissed in front of your child is actually worse than any personal insult? Because they're learning to see you the way other people see you. Your child is watching the world treat you a certain way, and they're deciding whether to accept that treatment as truth. Natalia understood this. She understood it with the kind of clarity that only comes from deep, cellular, parental terror. So she did something that might have seemed small in the moment. She took the empty plate from Lucas's hand, set it on the table, and walked toward the gate that led to the driveway, her hand on his shoulder, her chin level, her pace steady. Behind them, Kevin called out something else designed to land like a punch. "Don't forget the family investment meeting next week." "Oh wait, you wouldn't qualify for that anyway. That's only for people who actually contribute to the family business." The sound of Kevin's laughter followed them all the way to the car. Natalia buckled Lucas into his car seat with hands that felt like they belonged to someone else. She started driving without quite registering where she was going, and Lucas finally let the tears fall from behind his tear-clouded glasses. "Why doesn't Uncle Kevin like us?" His voice was breaking. Everything about him was breaking, and she could feel her own careful composure starting to fracture. "It's complicated, sweetheart. Sometimes people don't understand other people's lives. Sometimes they think there's only one way to be successful, and when they see someone doing things differently, it scares them. Is it because we don't have a big house like theirs?" She gripped the steering wheel harder. She'd been gripping steering wheels for 5 years while this answer was accumulating inside her. She'd been driving away from uncomfortable conversations for half a decade. But not this time, not with her son. "Uncle Kevin doesn't understand everything about my life. There are things I do that he doesn't know about. That's okay. We're going to get dinner, you and me, and you're never going to be turned away from food again because of anything anyone says about us. Do you understand me?" They stopped at a place called the Chrome Counter, one of those vintage diners that served breakfast all day, all night. The kind of place that understood that hunger doesn't care about timing or appropriateness. Lucas ordered a burger with extra pickles and fries. Natalia watched him eat. She watched him start to relax. And while he ate, she found herself thinking about the past 5 years. She thought about everything her family had missed because they were too focused on measuring and comparing. She thought about the 2 a.m. calls with Tokyo offices, the 4 a.m. negotiations with London-based acquisition firms. She thought about the 7 figures she'd quietly moved through her investment accounts, building something they'd never see because they weren't paying attention. Natalia's consulting firm worked with Fortune 500 companies on acquisition strategy. She didn't work for them. She worked with them. She advised them. She bought companies for them. She restructured entire divisions. She was the woman in the room who understood market positioning and asset value, and she moved through that world with the kind of quiet authority that comes from knowing your actual worth and being paid accordingly. Her brothers and sisters and cousins had no idea. None. She told them she was a consultant. She'd left the details deliberately vague. And they'd assumed exactly what she knew they'd assume. That she was struggling, that she'd overreached, that she was the kind of woman who tried and failed at things. They felt comfortable with that narrative, because it confirmed what they already believed about their own superiority. "This burger is really good," Lucas said with his mouth half full, which made her smile despite everything. "Better than Uncle Kevin's?" "Way better," Lucas grinned. That night, after she'd put Lucas to bed, and made sure his bedroom door was closed and locked. Natalia sat in her small living room with a cup of tea that she didn't really want. Her apartment indicator was small. Yes, it was modest. It was not impressive by her family's standards. But it was paid off. It was hers. It was exactly what she needed it to be, a place to live while she built something larger. At 11:55 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. The message was calculated. Just so we're clear, you disrespected me today walking out like that in front of everyone. Remember who guaranteed your business loan 5 years ago when you were trying to start that consulting thing? Remember who was there for you when nobody else believed in you? You owe me some respect, that's what he called it. The consulting thing. Here's what Kevin didn't know because Natalia had never told him. 5 years ago, when she asked for his help with a business loan, his response had been immediate and cruel. You, a consultant? You barely graduated college. Who's going to listen to financial advice from you? But when the bank required a loan guarantor, Kevin eventually agreed, not because he believed in her, because he was convinced she'd fail, and he'd never actually have to pay anything. He signed the papers with the absolute certainty that within a year, she'd be coming back to him with shame in her voice, begging him to help her handle her failure. He was the hero in his own narrative. He was the successful brother who magnanimously signed something he was sure he'd never have to honor. What Kevin absolutely did not know was what happened exactly 6 months into her consulting business. She won her first major contract. A Fortune 500 company wanted to acquire a regional manufacturing concern, and they needed someone to restructure the deal. She was that someone. The contract was worth $340,000. She paid off Kevin's loan guarantee in 4 years instead of 10, and she never told him. She could have mentioned it at any family gathering. She could have said, "Remember that guarantee? Paid it off." But she didn't. She let him keep believing he had leverage. She let him keep feeling like he'd saved her. And while he was congratulating himself on his generosity, she was building. 14 months ago, Natalia's investment firm purchased Meridian Financial Bank, one of the mid-sized institutions that held commercial lending for business owners across Metro Atlanta. The purchase went through standard channels. The new ownership was registered under her investment company, not under her personal name. Nobody in her family had any reason to investigate it. Nobody in her family knew anything about her investment portfolio because they were too busy assuming they knew everything about her life. That night at 11:55 p.m., she opened her laptop and pulled up files she'd been reviewing all evening. Bank documents, transfer papers, ownership records. She typed her response to Kevin. "Marcus, I appreciate you bringing up the loan guarantee. I've been meaning to discuss that with you. I'm attaching the bank ownership transfer documents. As of 14 months ago, I own Meridian Financial Bank, the same bank that holds your business loans for all 3 auto shops. The same bank that guaranteed your most recent expansion. Check your email." Wait. Let me pause here because I need to tell you what's actually happening in this moment. This isn't about getting revenge. This is about a woman who has spent 5 years being underestimated and publicly disrespected suddenly having the tools to make sure that underestimation ends. She's not torturing Kevin for pleasure. She's enforcing the same loan terms she'd enforce on any client. She's being a banker. The difference is that she's finally the banker, not the supplicant. I want you to notice that distinction because it matters for understanding what comes next. She hit send. Then she sent a second message. Also attached the loan default notice that will be sent to you tomorrow morning. You're 3 days late on your payment for the 3rd shop. The grace period ended today. As the new owner, I've implemented stricter policies. She sent a 3rd message with a purchase agreement from 14 months ago showing Natalia's investment firm as the new owner. She sent a 4th message forwarding him a document to the bank senior loan officer, copying Kevin. Please proceed with the standard late payment protocol for Kevin Richardson's account. A 3-day late notice was issued. The next step is the formal default process and potential acceleration of the full loan amount. He has 72 hours to bring all accounts current, including penalties. Her phone rang immediately. Kevin. She didn't answer. She forwarded him another email. This time it included the refinance documents for her parents' house, which Kevin had taken out a second mortgage on last year to fund his expansion. The same house where Natalia had grown up. The house her parents had bought with money that Kevin had helped them acquire, which meant he felt like he had rights to it. The same house whose mortgage was now held by Meridian Financial Bank, which Natalia owned, which meant the house was ultimately her responsibility to manage. The calls started coming in a cascade. Kevin's phone call, then Sophie's phone call, then someone else's. She silenced them all. She made herself another cup of tea, the same tea she didn't want, and she waited. At 12:30 a.m., she answered Kevin's call. "What the hell is this?" he shouted before she could speak. "You own the bank, Kevin." "That's impossible. You're a consultant. You live in a small apartment." "I am a consultant. I consult for Fortune 500 companies on acquisition strategy. My firm handles portfolio management for several high-net-worth clients. We purchased Meridian Financial 14 months ago as part of a larger investment strategy. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing for the entire 5 years you've been telling everyone I'm failing. This is insane. You can't do this to family." "Do what? Enforce standard banking policies?" "Kevin, you're late on your payment by 3 days. There's always a grace period." There was. It ended tonight. The new ownership implemented stricter protocols last quarter. You would have known this if you'd read the notices we sent, or if you'd bothered to ask me about my actual career, instead of dismissing it as that consulting thing. Sophie's voice shrieked in the background. "Tell him about the social media post. Tell him we'll ruin her reputation." Natalia took a sip of tea. She kept her voice steady and calm, because calmness in the face of chaos is its own kind of power. "Kevin, you're currently in default on $340,000 in business loans. Your shops are leveraged at 92%. If I call the loans, you'll lose everything in about 6 weeks. I suggest you focus on making your payment rather than social media threats." "You wouldn't do that. We're family." "Family?" I repeated. "Is that what you called it today when you said burgers were only for kids with a future? When you humiliated my 7-year-old son at a family barbecue in front of people he should be able to trust? When you spent 5 years telling everyone at every family gathering that I was the one who failed?" Silence. Actual silence. The kind of silence where you can hear someone's entire worldview recalibrating. "Here's what's going to happen," Natalia continued. "You have 72 hours to make your payment plus late fees. That's $12,800. After that, we proceed with standard default protocols. I don't have that kind of cash right now. Everything's tied up in inventory. Then you should have made your payment on time. Please make your payment rather than making excuses. I'm going to hang up now, and I'm going to get some sleep. The payment deadline is 72 hours from now." "Please," Kevin said, and Natalia heard something in his voice she'd never heard before. Fear. Real, authentic fear. The sound of someone understanding that the system they thought they understood suddenly doesn't apply the way they thought it did. "Can't you just extend the grace period for family? The same family that mocked my son today? The same family that spent 5 years reminding me that you guaranteed my loan? Speaking of which, I paid that loan off 4 years ago. But you enjoyed holding it over my head too much for me to mention it. I let you feel like you were saving me. I let you believe that story about yourself. But I don't need saving. I never did." Her father's voice came through the phone. Kevin must have put her on speaker. "Sweetheart, be reasonable. Kevin made a mistake today. He'll apologize." "Will he?" "Because, Dad, you stood right there when he refused to feed your grandson. You said nothing. You watched your 7-year-old grandson ask for food and you watched your son humiliate him, and you said absolutely nothing. You participated in that moment through your silence." Her mother's voice came next, tearful and accusatory. "We didn't know it would hurt Daniel's. His name is Lucas. His name is Lucas and he's your grandson, and you let his uncle publicly tell him he didn't have a future. Now you can all experience what it feels like when I enforce what I'm legally entitled to enforce. I'm being a banker. If Kevin were any other client, he'd already be in formal default. I'm giving him 72 hours as a courtesy that I probably shouldn't extend." "What do you want?" Kevin asked. His voice was smaller now, defeated. "An apology. To Lucas. In writing. Meaningful. Not lawyer drafted. And I want you to pay your loan on time like the contract requires. Whether you apologize or not is between you and your conscience. Whether you pay on time is between you and Meridian Financial Bank policy." "I'm sorry I said that to Daniel. His name is Lucas. I'm sorry I said that to Lucas. I didn't mean it. I don't believe you. But that's not my problem anymore. Your payment is due in 72 hours. Her Uncle Robert's voice joined the chaos. This is extortion. I know lawyers. Excellent, Natalia said. Have them review the loan documents. They'll confirm that everything I'm doing is completely legal and standard banking practice. In fact, Kevin received preferential treatment for the past 14 months because I instructed the loan department not to flag his account for special attention. That courtesy ends now. Goodbye. She hung up and blocked their numbers for the night. She needed sleep. The next morning, she woke up to 73 missed calls and 42 text messages. She ignored them all. She made Lucas his favorite breakfast, pancakes with extra syrup. When he came to the kitchen, yawning and sleepy, he looked at her with that careful attention children develop when they're trying to figure out if the adults in their world are okay. Are you okay, Mom? I'm perfect, honey. Eat your breakfast. I'm taking today off. We're going to spend the whole day together. At 9 a.m., Natalia's phone rang from a number she didn't recognize. David Park, attorney for Kevin Richardson. The message said when she checked caller ID. She answered. This is David Park, attorney for Kevin Richardson. We need to discuss these loan acceleration threats. Mr. Park, there are no threats. There is a contract that your client signed and standard banking policies that apply to all borrowers. Your client is in default. He has 68 hours remaining to cure that default, or we proceed with acceleration of all loans. My client tells me you're his sister. This is a clear conflict of interest. I'm the owner of Meridian Financial Bank. Your client is a borrower. There's no conflict. If anything, he's received preferential treatment because of our family relationship. That treatment ends today. Now, is he calling to make a payment, or is he calling to waste my time? She hung up before he could respond. At 10 a.m., the bank's senior loan officer called. Miss Richardson, we've received several calls from Mr. Thompson's attorney. How would you like us to proceed? Standard protocol. No exceptions. If he doesn't cure the default within the specified time, we initiate acceleration proceedings on all 3 loans. Understood. Also, we received his payment this morning. Wire transfer at 9:47 a.m., $12,800. Natalia felt something release in her chest. Kevin had found the money. He'd probably borrowed it from their father or sold something. It didn't matter. He'd paid. He understood. That was the point. He understood that the power had shifted and the system worked on her terms now. Good. Please confirm receipt and update his account status. And John, from now on, Kevin Richardson gets the same treatment as any other commercial borrower. No special consideration. No preferential flagging. No exceptions. Of course. Will you be coming to the board meeting this afternoon? We need to discuss the Q3 projections. Yes, I'll be there. She ended the call and sat quietly with a cup of coffee that actually tasted good this time. 3 days later, a letter arrived via certified mail. An apology from Kevin to Lucas. Carefully worded. Probably lawyer drafted. It meant nothing in its sincerity, but it meant something in its existence. It meant her 7-year-old son had received, in writing, an acknowledgement that he deserved respect. That was something. It was something. 2 weeks later, at their mother's birthday dinner, the family was different. Quieter. Kevin and Sophie arrived late and left early. Nobody asked about Natalia's apartment. Nobody made comments about Lucas's future or her career choices. When Lucas asked Kevin if he could have a piece of cake, Kevin cut him an extra-large slice without hesitation. He smiled while he did it. A real smile, not the condescending expression Natalia had grown accustomed to. Small victories, but real ones. That night, as she tucked Lucas into bed, he said something that made the entire 5-year journey feel worth it. Uncle Kevin was nicer today. Yes, he was. Did you do something? I made sure he understood something he didn't understand before. I made sure he knew that you matter. That we matter. Good, Lucas said, yawning. I like it better when people are nice. I like it when people see me. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Later, in her home office, Natalia reviewed Meridian Financial's quarterly reports. The bank was performing above projections. It wasn't just a solid investment. It had become a valuable asset, exactly as she'd planned. The acquisition wasn't about Kevin. It was about building something real. But the fact that it also repositioned the power dynamic in her family? That was the bonus, the dividend she hadn't anticipated but absolutely appreciated. Her email pinged. A message from her cousin Raymond, the one who'd walked away from the grill that day without defending her but also without joining in the mockery. I heard what happened. Good for you. Marcus needed to learn that lesson. Also, my company is looking for a financial consultant for an acquisition we're planning. Any chance you're taking new clients? Natalia smiled and typed back. I'd love to review the details. Send them over and we'll talk. Here's what I want you to understand about this story. This isn't actually a story about revenge. It's not about a woman who built an empire specifically to punish her family. Natalia built the empire because she was capable of building it. The fact that she was underestimated? That was never her problem. That was everyone else's problem. They chose to believe certain things about her. They chose to measure success in certain ways. They chose to participate in a power structure that they thought they understood. And then they discovered that they didn't understand anything. The real story here is about what happens when invisible strength becomes visible. When the person everyone thought was struggling turns out to be the most powerful person in the room. But here's the crucial part. She didn't use that power for cruelty. She used it to enforce boundaries. She used it to protect her child. She used it to make sure that her son understood, in the clearest possible terms, that his mother's worth wasn't measured by his uncle's approval. That is an entirely different thing than revenge. If you've ever been in a room where someone looked right through you, where your accomplishments were dismissed because they didn't match someone else's metric for success, if you've ever felt your child's worth questioned because your life didn't look a certain way, this story is for you. Because it's possible that you're building something nobody sees yet. It's possible that the person judging you is operating from incomplete information. It's possible that your quiet strength is more powerful than their loud certainty. The mistake most people make is believing that power requires announcement. They think successful people are loud, visible, obvious. They believe that if you're not performing your success, you're not actually successful. Natalia understood something different. She understood that real power operates quietly. It builds while people are looking the other way. It compounds. It grows in the dark. And then, when the moment is right, when someone has stepped far enough over the line with someone you love, you calmly show them what you've been building. I want you to think about something as we close this out. Think about a person in your life who's been underestimated. Not by you necessarily, but by someone. Someone in your family, someone at work, someone in your community. Think about the possibility that their quiet life might be a lot more complex than you assumed. Think about the possibility that what you perceived as failure was actually someone building something you couldn't see. And then think about treating that person with a little bit more respect, because you actually don't know what they're capable of. If you were Natalia, would you have done the same thing? Would you have stayed silent for 5 years? Or would you have defended yourself earlier? Comment 1 if you think she was right to enforce the late payment protocol. Comment 2 if you think she should have extended grace to family. And comment 3 if you think she went too far. And I want to know where you're watching this from right now. What time is it where you are? Are you watching this before work, on a lunch break, or winding down at the end of your day? Tell me in the comments. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to let someone learn a difficult lesson for their own good? Or have you ever been surprised to discover that someone you underestimated was actually doing incredible things all along? I want to hear your stories too. They matter. If you're watching this right now, please subscribe. I keep telling stories about the power of quiet strength, about the people who build things nobody sees, about families and their complications. There are so many more stories like this one, and I want to share them with you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring about the people in your life the way that Natalia cares about Lucas. This is a fictional story inspired by real emotional experiences. Fully rewritten and reimagined in Atlanta, Georgia to create original content. Any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental.